First things first, how are you?
I'm doing good. Again, after like 2 weeks of cold and cough and impossible to sleep and all that, now it's coming back to normal. Not yet 100%, but almost.
Well, it's good to hear that you're getting back to feeling fit again. Now, before we talk about the new album Life, I would like to jump back to the beginning. Now, I read that your father was quite a good guitarist. Was there one song he
Still
played?
now.
Hmm.
Still now.
Oh, he still is. Still is. Okay, that's amazing. What was
Yeah.
there one song that he played when you were young that you really liked?
Oh man, he was listening to all the classics, like from his I think his favorite is Clapton, with
Okay,
Cream.
sure.
And then all the 70s like Led Zeppelin and Purple more than Zeppelin, and all the above, like the rainbow thing. But I think that the one song that turned me into guitar, or made me not guitar, because I started with a little bit keyboards and
Mm.
trying different things. I think it was Hotel California, because
Okay.
I still remember playing. My father was playing it in the car coming back from the school, and I was playing this endless solo, the final solo, which
Sure.
is all harmonized, and to me it was like, oh man, this is so cool. And that was the first song. Not that he was a big Eagles fan, but that song is, I mean, it's a classic, so of course it
Sure.
was probably that one. And then again, all the Purple was my main influence, just taken from my father, more than all the blues stuff that is in.
Because I find it interesting that you say he still is a very good player, so he still plays. What has he ever told you why he plays so much or why he likes to play even today?
Uh, Not really, because we're not that good at communicating with each other. I
Okay.
mean, yeah, of course, we talk to each other, but he's not like a technical player. He doesn't
Okay.
know anything about that scale name or harmony or really nothing. He always played by ear, playing on songs, but he always had this band, the same band since he was 20. So it's like now he's almost 70. So it's like 50 years of the same band. So he has all these cool like blues licks that
Mm,
I had to learn, but he never taught me like anything about guitar. He just probably just passed me the passion, and
mm.
maybe the best thing he did was just playing me all the vinyl from all those bands, like all those guitar driven band like Clapton.
Sure.
And I remember when I was trying to when you start to play along the records, trying to learn all the solos and the licks, to me it was so natural.
Mm.
It was like, oh, 1 second, because probably in my head they were playing since 15 years already. But he never told me like, oh, you should play this, you should play that. Nothing at all. I just
Okay.
learned, with my friends and other stuff.
What was one solo that you managed to learn when you were younger that you were really proud of once you kind of finally figured out how to do
Oh man, too many. I mean,
it?
it's probably it's a it's a kind of unknown song by Deep Purple, but I still remember it's a fantastic solo from the album Stormbringer,
Mm.
and the song is Hold On.
Okay.
And it's funny because the song is more like funky, with Glenn Hughes and that kind of funky rock. And there's almost no guitar in the whole song. So I remember I was listening to that song, and then the solo section came at the end, and to me it was like, oh, like mind blowing. And I spent
Mm.
probably endless night with a friend of mine, and we were both coming back with a cassette, like, oh, maybe that band is done here and there. And to me it was endless. And then, yeah, man, all the classicals, of course, like Highway Star, Smoke on the Water. But it was all Purple for me, like, come growing up, like
But
learning to play.
But you allude to something very interesting, which is times have very much changed, I suppose, to from when you started learning to play the guitar to now. Because now, if you want to learn a solo, you just go online, you look up how to play this solo, and you have a tab, and it tells you how to do everything. And so, for you, the discipline kind of learning the guitar, what was
Yeah,
that
man.
like for you?
Yeah, man, I think I don't want to sound old, you know, like the old guys say, oh, back in my days, because I'm 40 years old, 42 actually. But yeah, I grew up in that era when if you had, I remember clearly that when I discovered the more heavy stuff like Ingve or Symphony X, to me was like, how come those guys play the stuff? And I didn't have any video or whatever.
Right.
So the only thing you could go to a concert, but I remember when I was like a kid, like 15, 14 years old, I couldn't go to those cities to see the concert. So the only way was to take the cassette, put in the recorder, and playing it slowly, you know, so you could understand. Oh, you understand the first like Ingve stuff, you know, my favorite stuff. And then with friends, you know, just spending endless nights with friends. Oh, I discovered this tapping thing. Oh, wow. And then I remember the cassettes, the VHS came up. And to me was game changer. You know, I remember that Romeo, Symphony X Romeo cassette that I probably watched like, I don't know, 2 million times. and that was the beginning, but it's always, I don't want to say discipline, because I never did the classic, you know, like, you know, all the guitar players say, oh, I was studying 8 hours per day. I wasn't, I mean, I was playing 8 hours per day, but not studying.
Right.
I was just, you know, like my favorite thing to do is always being play along the record. So I was just putting a song that I like and try to learn it, and over and over. I remember like Far Beyond the Sun from Ingve, I probably played 2 million times. Of course, you cannot play note by note, but you know, you take the essence. And while nowadays, I think, I mean, there are like million way more technical players than me, but sometimes I hear that they lack the joy of playing along the records, rather than, okay, I have this exercise and I have to do like 3 hours in the metronome so I can play a new Polyphia song or whatever band, you know, like super technical. So to me, maybe my background is more like rock, you know, like hard rock, like old school style, while I play probably more modern music. But I think I'm in the middle of that.
But that's an interesting point as well, I think, because that balance between kind of technical prowess or the technical side of things, and then the feeling, the emotion to put in there, and like you say, the joy of just being able to play the guitar.
Yeah.
I believe, as you mentioned,
I've always been.
Okay, go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. Just one more thing about this topic. I've always been too lazy and to study new things. I mean, if something doesn't come up like naturally, I just don't play it. You know,
Okay.
I know a lot of guys, and I envy them, you know, like all the technical players that can sit down for a day and practice, you know, that little difficult part. I just don't play, you know, I just play whatever feel natural to me. So it's not, sometimes I discover myself, I can play like a fast line upwards, but I cannot play downward. And for example, my keyboard player is always, oh, why can't you play like you're playing super fast upward? And I don't know, you know, I just play whatever.
Okay.
It's that's why I'm kind of old school, you know. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, no, that's perfect. That's very interesting. But what I was getting at, because you mentioned kind of those guitar virtuosos, the Ingwe's of the world. And I've always found, and I've seen a documentary about kind of the several stages of rock and how they developed. And at a certain point, it becomes so technical and so so much virtuosity that there's no way to go up anymore. So that's when kind of the punk and metal came in, and it's just power chords and very simple. So have you felt a similar thing that once you have a certain proficiency or a certain level of skill, that you then start to look for other things?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't think I never reached the peak of technique, because I'm not that crazy about guitar technique. But nowadays, compared to, for example, 15 years ago when I joined DGM, I have a completely different vision. I mean, for me back then, when I was writing songs, I mean, even 5-6 years ago, to me was all about, oh, I have to do this technical riff to show people that I can do that. And maybe the solo has to be the most intricate. Nowadays, I'm completely the opposite. I mean, like, okay, I want to write a good song. That's the most important thing. And then, yeah, I have fun with the solo, but I'm not searching for the super flashing part. I'm just playing whatever it takes. Sometimes it's speedy, fast. Sometimes it's more like emotional, more melodic. And I think if you listen to my albums like from 15 years ago and now, it's clear that now I'm searching more about the melody and solos that you can sing, like not like Gilmore style. Of course, I'm playing heavy stuff, and all that, but nowadays I never search for that specific flashy technique to impress people. I was like 10 years ago, definitely. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just as you said, it's just a period of your life. And then it's not that I want to play easy stuff, but what comes naturally to me. That's my main goal.
Then one last question about this kind of earlier or more personal side of what you do. But when you make this distinction between technical and more emotional, in terms of songwriting now, what is then the goal of writing a song? As it sounds so weird, but what is kind of the goal of writing a song?
I honestly don't know because I mean I have to think about that. But mainly, I find myself that I tend to search for a balance. So sometimes I have like an easy song, easy in terms of like parts, and then I feel that I have the urge to put in something more technical, so it's like, oh, I'm doing this song. This song is not that it's not that I want to complicate it like per se, but sometimes you are like you have an easy chord progression, and then I feel the need to put, okay, let me do something more complicated so that the listener is more, oh, it's something is happening, and you're caught about that. But I don't have a rule. I think I have maybe I have a pattern that I follow mentally, so that I just feel that, okay, I need an easier chorus because the main riff was too difficult, something like that, a balance. But my main goal nowadays is probably the main thing is to find a good melody, like a vocal line. Even if when I write songs, I always write the music. I never write the lyrics first. So it seems stupid to say the most important thing are vocals and they're the last. But I like all the tapestry of the music and the atmosphere, so the riffs, the keyboard parts. But then what people listen first is the vocals. So I can write the most beautiful riff or technical riff, but if the chorus is crap, then no one will remember the song.
Well, one last thing about this then, because I read somewhere that you do a lot of kind of riff writing and writing of the music in your head rather than sitting down with a guitar. Is that still how it works for you?
Absolutely, because again, since I'm not a super technical player, I consider myself not a super technical player. If I sit down with the guitar, I always come up with the same 3 riffs. And sometimes, I start playing and then I say, oh, I already wrote this one. Oh, it's similar to that song. While, yeah, I think 90% of the time I just hum thing, in your head. And then I recorded like with me singing stupid, like, like groove. And then, sometimes in my head, they're brilliant. And then when I translate to guitar, they're crap, because in your head, you have all this finished production thing. And then when it's down to guitar, but 5 out of 10 times it's a good thing. So I just pile up things in my phone with the recorder, and then sometimes I go through them and I delete what I don't like.
No, but you mentioned something I think that is important in this. I don't know, maybe you see it differently, but you also do a lot of production and mixing and mastering and all that kind of stuff. So I can imagine that side of thing, the production aspect, that you don't hear just the guitar anymore. You hear everything, and you can picture the whole song. So I can imagine that has an influence on how you write as well.
Absolutely. And also when I put down an idea, it's never like a rough guitar. To me, it's like my template session for demos sounds like pretty much like a finished album, because it's my job, you know. So I have all the, when I record a guitar tone, it's most of the time I also keep those, you know. When I record like demo solos, I always record, you know, I have the Laco I have in the studio, so I always record the DI, the clean signal. So if I have like an impossible part that came up randomly, oh wow, I'll keep that, and maybe that I reamp that later. And I do that for everything, like keyboards, and if I play something on keyboards. And I don't know if it's a thing coming from my job, like mixing stuff, but yeah, I always give, when I present the songs to the guys in the band, it's always like everything's there, like all the drum fills, the ghost notes, and they probably hate me because, okay, where's the creativity of the band? And of course, you always change something here and there when you're in the studio, but the main structure of the song, because when I take out the song from my studio and I play it in my car or whatever, when I go to run or something, I like to listen to the finished thing, because it gives me the idea, will this work when it's finished? While if I only hear like the soul, the riff, I wouldn't be able to tell if it's a good one or not, you know.
Yeah, you can picture it, I should say, if you're sitting in the car or something, you can picture it like a regular listener would hear a song like that. So.
Exactly.
Now, that whole process of songwriting and then having to present that to the group, to the band for life, what was the moment that you thought, okay, now these songs are ready, or I can show it to the rest of the guys?
Before I send the song to the guys, I usually deleted like 50 other ideas. So, you know, I have like all these riffs that I try. Oh, I hate this. And then when I find the one that I like, I finish the session. Maybe not the entire song, you know, maybe just riff, verse, and chorus, whatever. And then I send it to the guys in the chat. You know, we have a chat. And usually, like, hopefully 99% of the time, it's just, oh, it's brilliant. You know, because it's not that I'm so good, I'm not, but, you know, I already filtered all the bad ideas before myself. And that's where probably my work as a producer helps in recognizing, you know, like, oh, that riff will work, or the other one, I don't know. And so when I present their songs, it's just, oh, they all like it, and then I finish, and then I go on with another one. I never have like multiple songs open. When I start with one, I love to finish, even if it takes 2 months of me struggling. Like, I always open that song because I hate to leave it open, you know.
What in this cycle of the live album, then what was did you have kind of an idea of what you wanted, or do you just work on the song and then after, like, let's say a year or maybe even 2 years, you go, okay, these songs are really good? Or do you go in kind of thinking, oh, we need this kind of song, I want to write this kind of song?
Initially it's like random. I just put out the ideas, and then when I have like 4, 5, 6, maybe 6 songs ready, I go back and listen back, and then it's when I talk to the band and we sit and we say, oh, maybe we need a ballad, or maybe, you know, these 6 songs are too fast, so we need something mid-tempo. And that's why usually the most difference, because usually the main DGM sound is like the fast thing, you know, like and then when we have like 4, because they are easier for me to write, because it's, you know, when you have a fast riff, it's cool. While it's, to me, it's harder to write a good mid-tempo, because you have to dig deeper in the melody, you know, and all that. And but for live, it was strange, because I don't know if you read it somewhere, but when I was writing the songs, I also started to write other songs in a totally different style, like more because I was listening a lot to like 70s prog,
Okay.
like Kansas, Rush, King Crimson, and then I was discovering, I was super late, but I was discovering all the Porcupine Tree, Steven Wilson stuff, and I fell completely in love. So I started to write stuff more in that vein. I bought an acoustic guitar that I didn't have. And so I found myself that I had like pretty much 2 albums. You know, one was the one that became live, and one was more mellow, like more Mellotron, Hammond, like old school. And I initially decided to take those songs and put out as a side project, whatever.
Sure.
But then the guys listened to the songs and they fell in love, and we all discovered that, oh, we will love to play that stuff. So our first idea was to put out a double album, you know, like Opeth did, you know,
Sure.
like the heavy one and the mellow one. But then, you know, it was so much stuff, and nowadays music is so fast that if we put out a double album, it probably, I mean, it's too much stuff for people. So we decided, okay, let's do the last, I don't know if it will be the last heavy one, and then we will try, you know, something different in the future. So we have basically 2 albums ready. The other one is almost done, and hopefully will come out next year, not so late, you know. And it was really cool, because in the beginning the label was like, oh, you guys should mix the songs, like one fast, one. But to me it was 2 different, you know, worlds. So it's like, no, I want to have a heavy record like we always did, and then I want to focus on the most even the sound wise. You cannot have like a full blast heavy production and then like a mellow acoustic. To me it's not working, to my taste at least.
But I
if you're
think
not open, only them can do.
But I think a cool bridge, I suppose. I don't know if it's a bridge, but a song like Eve then is kind of, because it is still there's some heavy elements in it, but there's also a certain calmness about it in a way. So there's this. Well, how would a song like that start? Because from what I hear.
Sorry, go ahead.
Just very quickly, because I've talked to some guitarists who write instrumental pieces, and they always tell me it starts with just a small little thing, and they repeat it, and then they add a little thing, and then maybe a month later something else comes in, and it just grows and grows. So how does a song like that come to be, especially when it's it's the only instrumental song on the track? It's sonically a little bit different, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, I always told in every interviews in past 15 years, I will never do an instrumental album or stuff, because I hate it. And that's actually true. Because to me, it's boring. I mean, I don't feel, no, listen. It's not boring to listen to. I love of course I love all the Steve Vai. And
I was going to say Satriani and all
yeah, of course, yeah. And the Timmons, they're all, but I don't feel I'm interesting enough as a guitar player to fill up a 5-minute piece with my guitar playing. I mean, I enjoy doing the 30-second solo where I can put all my licks. But then, yeah, I mean, I don't feel myself worthy enough to do an instrumental. Like, I mean, all leads, you know?
Sure.
But that particular song, I remember I bought a new Marshall. You know, in the studio, I always constantly buy new gear, you know, new heads or whatever. And I bought this old Marshall from the 80s, DGM 800, and I was testing it, you know. I was just bought it, and I put it in my room with full blast on the cabinet. And the first thing that came to me was that main riff of Eve, and it reminded me a lot of Die to Live from Steve Vai from Alien Love Secret album. It was the same vein, And I thought, oh, I think it's cool. And I recorded it on my phone. And then it stayed there for probably 2 years. And then again, I was with my keyboard player. Is the genius of the band. Is, you know, he has perfect pitch and he can play all the instruments like sax, flute, keyboards, guitar. And I played some, I don't know, I don't remember where we were, but I played in the idea, and he was like, oh, we should do an instrumental. And I was like, no, I always told I will never do that. Actually, and then it happened, as you said, like I sat down, I tried to improvise something different, and he did all the like the fusion-ish part in the middle, because I don't know those chords. Like, it's not me, it's him. And that's it. It was quite easy because, you know, without vocals, it's always easier for us.
Well, can you talk a little bit about your musical relationship with Emmanuel, the keyboard player? Because I saw some of those things you put up on YouTube, the play along things, and you can see how kind of the keyboard and the way he plays weaves into your guitar playing and kind of the layering of that, which is really interesting. And it's kind of what you mentioned earlier, when you have an easy bit and then you have some, it's not necessarily intricate, but interesting. It piques your interest when you hear those lines going and mixing. So what is your relationship with him and kind of figuring out that sound of the band?
I mean, it's honestly, it's all natural. I mean, I've been playing with him even before I joined DGM, because we played together in another band of mine. So it's almost 20 years, and he knows exactly what I'm gonna play in every beat. So usually it's me recording the leads, you know, all the parts, and I just give him. It's funny that you mentioned all those tales where we are intertwined, because those things to me are the most tasteful thing that I love about our playing, because it's not written down. You know, I usually when I finish my lines, I always improvise some stuff that usually I think, oh, this will be faded out, you know, and then when he records his own parts, he always harmonize it or do this intertwined thing, and to me they're always beautiful. And yeah, I think again he's a genius. And also when he does like keyboard solos, it's always something different. It's not like me that I'm repeating the same licks over and over. It's always like so interesting in playing and in everything. I wish he could write more, because he's a super lazy guy. So I always tell him, hey, please write some songs. And he was like, oh, your songs are great, I don't want to write more songs. He is the best at arranging what I have. So when I have something finished, he always comes up with brilliant ideas, like, oh, we should do that, we should do and he knows all the jazz, all the difficult, complicated chords. So sometimes when we're arranging all vocals, is crucial, because it's always, oh, we should do that note and then not going to that. And to me, it's like genius, you know, for me.
But that's really cool. And again, yeah, I really like that. You can hear the kind of the way how should I put this? What you do together, it really blends in well, and it really makes this
like the intertwine.
Yeah. I have one last question. This I don't know if you to what extent you've written lyrics before, but there are some songs that you've written lyrics for on this album. What is your approach to lyric writing, and particularly with Journey to Nowhere, which is kind of this cosmological, almost philosophical type of lyrics?
I mean,
what was your approach with that?
I mean, I never wrote any lyrics in the past, because I felt, or maybe 1 or 2 songs in 15 years, because I always felt I was so bad, and I still think I'm bad. But this time I really had something to say, you know, when especially I have a bunch of songs that are more personal, like more the moods and the emotions that I was feeling during the lockdown, and most of them weren't that good, you know. Some bad periods about my life and my
getting frustration out.
That. Yeah, anxiety, and frustration, and you know, some panicking sometimes. And then I discovered with that song, Journey to Nowhere, was born right after I finished all the foundation books from Asimov, you know, like all of them. I think it was like a book like this. And I was so into this cosmic like search for other planets. And I started to buy because Asimov wrote a lot of essays, like philosophical and religious, like analyzing the scientific side of the discovery of aliens or stuff like that. And I was so mesmerized that I had to write my own little homage version to that.
But it's really cool. I'm just trying to remember who Asimov was. He the one who came up with the rules for robotics and that kind of stuff?
Exactly. He wrote the book of robots. You know, yeah, he's a brilliant writer from the 50s. And yeah, I mean, he's the father of science fiction and all that. So those books were all, you know, Star Wars comes from there, you know. So, and yeah, again, I don't feel I am. Of course, I don't speak a perfect English and I don't have a perfect vocabulary. So I'm a little bit limited when I write lyrics, you know. That's why I was afraid to try. But then I thought, okay, even if I tell the emotion with simple lyrics, maybe people will understand anyway, you know, because it's what I feel. So it doesn't matter if it's super poetic or not. Otherwise, I should sing in Italian, and then I will sell like no copies at all. So
But do you like this lyric writing, and do you see yourself doing this more in the future?
I hope not, because to me it's a struggle. You know, if it takes 1 week to do a music for a song, it takes 1 month to do a lyric. No, I mean, it's really difficult because I don't have that experience. So it takes a lot of time, you know, because also I want to find not only the right words, but also the right sound of the vowels.
Sure.
And, you know, not having the entire vocabulary in my head, it's a lot of like research, you know, trying not to copy that thing. And it's really difficult. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I know that the next album will be a concept because we already did it. And all the lyrics were from my drummer and bass player. So they took care about that. But I don't know in the future, maybe yes, maybe no, I don't know.
We'll see. Simone, may I thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me.
Oh, thank you for having me. Sorry for my delay.
Oh, no problem at all. You've been very kind with your time, so thank you so much.